Podstock.
There we go, Steve. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. It is Alex. It is Steve. It is Dave. Uh, it is a little later because we had some technical issues. Dave might sound a little off because he's doing this on his phone, which his audio is worse, but his video is so much better. It's incredible how nice and crystal clear Dave is coming
He
into
looks
us
like
right
a
now.
totally different person.
Right?
And I'm sure you guys would much rather me be blurred out as opposed to see me being a lot clearer.
Well, it's a bit of a chin shot. That's the only thing I would critique, but that's fine.
Well, at least you get a good shot of my shirt anyway.
Yeah, we got
Dave's
a good shot
wearing
of
a
your
Washington
Redskins
Redskins
camo
shirt, yeah.
salute to service shirt there. That's a classic.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. You can't wear the favorites too often now because
I gotta say though, Dave, the camera really is looking jet up your nostrils.
At least he's trimmed them. It seems.
I mean, we can't see your eyes; we can literally just see your nose. But that's okay; it's fine.
I mean, at least I do keep the nose hairs trimmed.
Yeah. Yeah. Dave's adjusting his camera now. I don't know if this is making it better or worse.
And nobody can see it but us.
Yeah. So, it is funny to just do that. I actually had a meeting like this morning at work where I was running late, so I just called in and I was walking through the city just in my call on camera the whole time. I will tell you guys something really funny real quick. I fell asleep on my arm last night and I was trying to wake it up and trying to move it with my good hand that wasn't asleep, and I punched myself in the eye at like 4 a.m. So if you see me blinking a lot or winking, it's not me coming on to you guys.
What I think you should have done is asked your wife why she punched you. That'd be funny.
That would go over well at 4 a.m.
It would. Why'd you punch me?
Well, she's asleep. She might think she actually did it.
I know, that's the point. It would be funny. Just humor me, okay?
It is funny. It's a pretty good bit. I injured myself. Why'd you do it?
I will say that you're the only person I've ever said who has punched himself in the face while asleep.
Well, I was awake.
Sort of.
I was waking up and trying to, you get it. Like I picked it up and it just kind of like fell in because I couldn't move my arm.
Just go with what I said. It sounds funnier.
It is very funny.
Well, that's okay. One of the nights we had our grandson over, he usually always sleeps in our bed with us, so he cut me off to the edge of my bed so close. I was right at my nightstand, and somehow during the course of the night, I woke up and right in my forehead, right there, was dried up blood. I must have hit the corner of my nightstand somehow.
Oh no!
You guys are both just getting beat up in your sleep.
It's crazy.
Well, not all of us get a California king bed for ourselves, Steve.
I don't have a California king either, just for the record.
Just a normal king?
Yes. I live in the suburbs. We have space for things like that in the suburbs.
Yeah. No, we want to upgrade to a king. We have a queen size right now, and it's just not enough. And it's cheap. We bought a really cheap mattress when we got it. And that's a mistake. Don't buy cheap mattresses, folks.
No, you got to get a decent one. I agree with you there. I'm cheap too, but
yeah, a good mattress is worth it. All right, let's talk about Devo. Right, that's the Washington Commanders.
Did you say Devo or Debo? I don't want to talk
rock
about
band.
Devo. Yeah, I don't want to talk about Devo.
You don't want to crack that whip?
I do not. No, I'd prefer not to.
I thought music was your thing, so I thought
Devo is not my thing. Music, yes. Devo, no.
Devo is not Steve's thing. All right, really. Let's talk about Debo Samuel. What a trade. Steve, you want to give the quick numbers? It's not a lot.
I truly don't understand this trade from an objective standpoint. It's crazy. So Washington obviously traded a 5th-round pick for the rights of Debo Samuel. This does not take effect until the new league year begins, technically speaking. There's a bit of gyrations here because he's got a super complicated contract. But the bottom line is he's in the last year of a 3-year extension that was worth a total of $71 million and change. When it's all said and done, Washington's cap it is probably going to be 17 million, a little under 17.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most likely option. The 49ers, he's got an option that they're going to decline. It's going to end up being 17 million. The really weird thing, and with no dead money. So what this amounts to for Washington is basically they paid a 5th-round pick for a 1-year prove-it deal to see if Debo Samuel can get back to his 2021 level, which we're going to talk about, because he's not what he once was. But from a San Francisco standpoint, this is what I don't understand, and it makes me. It's what I want you guys' opinion on. It makes me think there's something about this guy that we don't know, because not only did San Francisco lose money on this, they lost a truckload of money. They are getting what it all boils down to is they're losing about 15.5 million in cap space.
That's weird.
They're losing cap. So what happened was they dump his cap hit, but which is 15 and change, but they're getting a $31 million dead cap, which means they're going to lose. They're going to lose 15 million and change of cap space by getting rid of them all for just a 5th-round pick. Something doesn't add up with this, and is it maybe the optimist would say that the team knows they're going to stink this year. They don't care about losing a little bit of cap space, and they want to get something for this guy. So they're trading out cap space is not going to help them anyway in exchange for a draft pick that might help them. I mean, that would be the optimist. The pessimist would say there's something about Debo Samuel that's off, and they want to get rid of him desperately. I don't know what the truth is.
Well, I think when you look at they're about ready to come up with the long-term deal for Brock Purdy out there, which is going to be upward and near anywhere from 45 million a year, somewhere roughly around there. That's what they're kind of talking about. They drafted Parasol last year in the 1st round. They got them given a big contract to Ayuk last year. They have Juwan Jennings out there, who is a good number 3 option out there. Plus, they have some defensive issues in terms of cap wise they have to take care of. Like they're going to be extending Warren, Fred Warner. They've been talking about that this year. They're even they're a safety. Can't think of the top of my head. They're safety and Tre'Davious Ward. It was like they're not going to bring them back either. So I think they're combination of some of the younger guys they have, some future extensions, and then you have. I don't think they are great shape in cap either. Put all that together, so you look at Devo Samuel. He's been dinged up the last couple of years, so there is injury concern with him. I mean, he's not the player he was, but he's still an impactful player for the offense. I just don't think that Debo Samuels want to be there much longer because he didn't like the utilization out there. From Kyle Shanahan, there's so much going on. I think San Francisco was just cut our ties with this. He's a good player, not the great player he was. He's still a good player. I think he'll fit a role in this offense, no doubt. I think San Francisco just has so many other things you have to worry about between cap extensions and everything else. You have a couple younger receivers. I think they were just ready to move on with that.
Yeah, but I mean, he only has 1 year left on his contract as it was. They weren't going to have to deal with him next year at all. You might be right, and I think you're taking the optimistic view of it. I don't understand why they would cost themselves 15. Not only that, they've got void years that they're going to have too. Okay, this is going to cost them money for several seasons after this.
Right.
This is the most mind-boggling trade I've ever seen. I've not seen one that hurts a team more. I've seen teams get rid of players that they desperately need to get rid of, who are problem children and all. We've all seen that. Like Michael Vick got cut, when he went to jail. I mean, there's that. Aaron Hernandez, when he went, he got convicted of murder.
You have to at that point.
Right. It doesn't matter. But this guy, I'm not aware of that. And I think you're right, Dave, in that the future isn't him in San Francisco. I think you're totally right in that. Debo hasn't been what they wanted at all. And he's not the future. But I can't get past the fact that they just suffer through him for 1 more year. He goes away. They don't have to take this cap hit. They might have some void money, but it's a lot less than 15 million. Here. So I think it comes down to they're just this year is a dead year to them. They know that they can't win. It's almost, I won't say they're giving up, but this is not them planning for the Super Bowl. This is them planning for the future, and they're trying to look. If they can get a 5th round draft pick out of all this, great.
Right.
I think there probably is some concern there though on their part. Last season he was injured, even though he played most of the games. He was playing injured. He had pneumonia. That screwed up his health. Like there was a big deal made about how he was overweight at the Super Bowl. So I'm wondering if and now he's come out and said, look, he's fine health wise. He weighs 220. That's what he claims his current weight is, which not not that bad for a inside receiver. If you want a guy who's a little more physical,
I've got
that
him listed at 215 for what it's worth.
So he's claiming he's 220 now, which is not that far off, right? But there could be some concern on their part that he is kind of on the backside of his career and he's not as healthy. Now that said, even if last year he put up just under 700 yards as a receiver, even if he's putting up those numbers as a gadget guy number 2 for Washington, I think that's worth a 5th round pick.
Well, yeah. So you just stop right there.
Yeah.
From Washington's perspective, I would burn a 5th round pick every day on a guaranteed starter.
Right.
When they have a truckload of cap space, they can swing a 15 or 17 million dollar cap hit this year.
Right.
I'm just questioning it from a San Francisco standpoint. I totally understand why Washington would do this.
Right.
And I don't think he's necessarily going to be a Hall of Famer, but it's worth it. They're getting a starter. Maybe we'll get it back. Maybe a new atmosphere, new location, new young quarterback. Maybe he can get it back. I think it's a good gamble for Washington.
It's a great gamble for Washington in the end. But I think the health thing would be a concern if you were 49ers general manager. They need to start planning their rebuild around a Brock Purdy centered offense. I don't know if that's the right move, but that's their move that they have to play here, right? Like, it does get interesting though, because Kyle Shanahan, I think he's going to be their long-term head coach for the next 5-10 years, right? There's no reason for him not to be.
I wouldn't swear to 10, but I mean certainly many years. Yeah,
many years. He's a run-first guy still, so like I don't understand it from that perspective. Debo fits so well into Kyle Shanahan's tricky run-first stuff that he loves to do, and now you're losing that player. That's where it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think that's where the Debo Samuel equation came in, because he doesn't mind running those type of gadget plays, but for how he was being utilized in that run game, he's been talking about that for the last couple of years, from what I understand. He doesn't want to have to be almost like a part-time running back while being a receiver.
Right.
He has no issues with doing like screens, doing reverses, or jet sweeps and stuff like that. But it was like, I mean, he was having games where he was running the ball like 6-7 times.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to do it every week. Plus, you're giving him like anywhere from like 10 to 12 targets a game on top of that. That takes a toll on the body after a while too. So.
Yeah, well, and we all know running takes a much bigger toll on the body overall.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
He averaged 8 targets last year. He averaged, I don't see an average for 3 runs a game, actually. So he had 42 rushes for 136 yards. The thing about the running to me is with what he does, it makes no sense to line him up in the backfield and where he's really going to be limited on how many yards he can get. Mm-hmm. Having him on the sweeps, like you said, using him on screens, those are plays that become 15, 20-yard plays if they're blocked right and if it's done right. But they were lining him up in the backfield a whole lot last season.
I would like to give everybody a few numbers.
Yep.
So understand that the year he made the Pro Bowl and was the first team All-Pro 2021 was dramatically better than any other year he had. He had more than 1,400 yards receiving that year, had more than 300 yards rushing, averaged 18.2 yards per reception. all that is dramatically better. And I'm going to go somewhere with this, but as comparison, last year, 2024, 670 receiving yards, 13 yards per reception, 136 yards rushing, dramatically less. Now, so what I did here, except I just turned it off. I need to open it back up again. Everybody give me 1 second here.
Yeah.
So I wrote a column about this for Monday, this past Monday. And one thing I did is I took his career averages
Right.
and then removed the 2021 season from his career averages, and listen to this change. Okay. So every year in total, and he's the same class as Terry McLaurin, 2019. Averaged 70 receptions on 107 targets, 1,006 yards per season, 14.3 yards per reception, 65% catch percentage, 5 touchdowns, 42 rushing attempts, 240 yards, rushing, 5.7 yards per attempt. All that's 101 more than 1,100 yards per scrimmage. All that sounds wonderful.
Right.
Let's remove 2021. Now what we come to is 51 receptions and 78 targets, 677 yards receiving, 13 yards per reception, 3 touchdowns, 29 rushing attempts, 156 yards, 5.4 yards per attempt. That is starter level, but that's mediocre starter level. And so I think, so the optimist would say San Francisco's had problems. They've had other receivers, and he just, he's losing something for a reason. He needs to get back in a good situation. He can get back to 2021. The realist would say maybe that was just the high watermark for whatever reason. It was a better team, and this is actually who he is.
I mean, I think there's some of that. Now, did you also, 2020 he missed like most of the season. That factors into it a little too.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, I did this properly. I didn't just.
Yeah.
Each year. So yes. I mean, and what Alex is talking about, he got injured, played 7 games, started 5.
Right.
And so that is a factor. But the fact of the matter is, it's the receiving yards is going to be in the 600s. Receptions is going to be in the 50s.
Right.
Well, see, when it comes to Debo, the one thing that I've said to a couple people, especially here, is like I was talking to my nephew about it, is Debo's coming in a situation I think is ideal for him because he's not going to be number one receiver. I don't think he's a number one receiver today. What he does, what he's going to bring to this offense isn't going to be what he did in 2021. I don't see that at all. What I see is he's going to help open up this offense, take some pressure off of McLaurin, and help open up the running game a little bit because he has that big playability. You give him those quick slants, you give him those screens, you give him those jet sweeps every now and then. They have to pay attention to that every single week. If you had to rely on him as a number one receiver, like if he was in McLaurin's position last year, I don't think he has the year that McLaurin has last year, and I think this offense is much different than it was last year because I don't think he's the receiver McLaurin is and what he presents out there. And so I think he just makes a really nice compliment, a piece of that, because the one thing that I see in Jane Daniels is that he does an excellent job of elevating his receivers. He does a very good job of doing that. He took a bunch of Jags along with McLaurin last year, and he had a very good passing year, with a bunch of I don't want to say cast off wide receiver, but journeyman wide receivers and a receiver in De'Ami Brown that just wasn't great until last year for us. Well, he
Wasn't great last year
Yeah, he
either.
wasn't great,
Yeah.
but I mean, he was more serviceable last year and very good in the playoffs than he ever was in his first 3-4 years with us prior to that. So I think right now the way that they're attacking the offense is they don't think they need a T Higgins right now. They don't think they need a Garrett Wilson right now. You want to get someone to help open up the passing game a little bit more, help open the running game a little bit more, and obviously give Daniels another target. So now they can start focusing on the offensive line, getting a running back they desperately need on this team, and shoring up that defensive line a little bit more. So I think there's a game plan with this, and we'll see how it unfolds.
Oh, I think you're definitely right about that. I mean, what they did is they got a legitimate starter who's clear and obviously more accomplished than any other receiver not named Terry McLaurin on the team.
Right.
And they can afford him. It's only for 1 year. To be honest, I think if he produces another 600, 700 yard season, they just won't re-sign him. And the only thing they gave up was the 5th round pick for a chance at it, and that's a worthy gamble. But I think you're right. They don't have to draft a receiver and run one. They can focus on offensive line, which they desperately need, edge rusher. They've kind of solved the receiver problem, at least for this year.
Basically, any good defensive player or offensive lineman, I'm fine taking. I mean, if a great receiver is still there in round 1, go for it. Sure, I
think it would be an incredibly stupid thing to do.
I wouldn't be that mad because 3 good receivers is better than 2.
Unless Amari Hampton falls them at 29, they got to take him. In my opinion, they have to take him out of North Carolina. I mean, he when I watch him play, he reminds me so much of what I saw what Barkley did in Penn State. I mean, granted, Barkley went against better competition than Penn State, but it's just his build, his speed, his instincts, his hands, everything. I can't take another year of Brian Robinson Jr. being a featured back. That's just me. I can't take that.
You got to remember that Saquon Barkley excelled at Penn State because he was running from child molesters all the time, though.
Hey,
they made him faster.
He got 2,000 yards last year, didn't he? So it worked.
So I will. A lot of people have made comparisons to Pierre Garçon for this move. I don't necessarily think
it's not
that
unreasonable.
To me.
It's not unreasonable.
I think not totally unreasonable.
Debo's more versatile than Pierre was.
So the name that pops in my mind right away is, of course, Antoine Randall because of the versatility. Now, Debo's more physical, which is, I think, why people say Garçon. But to me, I just think of Randall and his, ability to just kind of be both receiver and a running back at times, and quarterback, as we know.
Emergency quarterback.
But he threw a Super Bowl and a touchdown in a Super Bowl, right? So, he will always have that on his resume. But yeah, I see a lot of that. Now, if he puts up what Randall did when he came to Washington, then I don't think you keep him because Randall did not have a great career when he came here.
But what I will say is that I think if there's one offensive coordinator who can excel with a dual threat guy, it's going to be Cliff Kingsbury. He's proved that last year with Austin Eckler, who admittedly is a running back who can receive. I mean, we've got the opposite case here, receiver who can play running back. But either way, Cliff Kingsbury is a really good guy to be able to try to pull something like that off.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the team knows that.
I think having more guys like that around a quarterback who's also very mobile, it's just another thing that defenses have to try and watch. And that makes life harder.
And also, just to add, I know I probably don't even have to say to you guys, but the people who are listening and people out there in the Twitterverse and all of them, stop saying that he put that the addition of Devo Samuels puts us past the Eagles and puts us in the Super Bowl next year. We're finally over the top. Of course
not.
That's crazy.
This is year 2 of Jaden Daniels. Are going to be some level of regression. You have a full season of defenses knowing what they can do and finding tendencies in this guy. You have to understand this team may not even make it back to the NFC Championship game next year if they don't resolve a lot of other issues they have on this team. They had a miracle season last year, and we all had fun with it. But they have so much work to do to catch up to the division rival, let alone even mention Super Bowl. And I love Jaden Daniels. He might have some regression, but I think whatever regression he might have be very minimal, and I think he'll come back from that and he'll be just fine. I got no issues on that part. But look at the rest of that roster.
The regression from Jaden Daniels is going to primarily come from the fact that they're going to have a harder schedule. And he didn't perform as well against better teams. Let's admit that. In the regular season. Let's be fair and admit that. And then 2, with a year of film on him, teams will have a better handle when they have a chance to study him in the offseason. I mean, us 3 aren't good enough to study him at that level, but pro teams are, and so it's going to be tougher for him. Don't forget, C.J. Stroud had the same type of season. I showed that when I did an analysis of the years. C.J. Stroud was in the ballpark of Jaden Daniels, and it went way downhill in year 2.
Right.
Not just saying that's going to happen. I'm saying it's possible, particularly with the harder schedule.
is definitely, it's likely they won't win 12 games with their schedule next. But I would say he also needs to grow himself. And I think the good thing about Jane Daniels is he knows he's going to need to grow his own game. I've harped on, and people think I'm old fashioned for it. Learn to do more under center stuff, because that'll
Yes.
open up play action. That'll open up your run game better. I know that sounds like a guy in like who's 80 years old. Run the I formation. Like come on.
Well, I mean, the problem is Jay Daniels is not going to. Lamar Jackson's the only quarterback who's managed to run as much as he has and not get hurt.
Right.
He's like a unicorn. But odds are that if Jane Daniels continues to run this much, he's at some point going to tear a knee up. It's going to be an RG3 thing, sprain an ankle, God knows what. Hopefully not. But I think you're exactly right. He does need to develop his game by being able to play under center more and run less. Run when he has to, for sure. It's a plus, but he cannot put 900 yards rushing up there every year because he won't be there.
Just shoot for 500 and be happy, everybody. Like that's a good day,
Again, unless you're somehow Lamar Jackson, who seems to be a unicorn.
Right. Well, he got hurt a couple times in his career.
Yeah, but he's never torn a knee up and
nothing
serious.
devastating that changed his ability to run like that. You're right.
Right.
All right. So we should mention that the combine was last weekend, came and went. The fanfare about the combine felt lower to me this year.
It really did to me too. I was much less excited about it than I normally am.
Yeah, I don't even mean on a personal level. Like, I mean watching social media.
That's what I'm talking
stuff.
about. I mean, I don't pay attention to social media anymore. But there was a lot less talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't seem as exciting. I don't know.
Well, it's probably because we have our quarterbacks, so we're good on that. The receiving class wasn't as deep as it has been for like the last 4 or 5 years. You have some good dynamic edge rushers in this draft, some good defensive linemen. The combine just isn't deep and loaded with talent like it's been, from what I've noticed anyway. And with us not needing a quarterback or looking for a quarterback this year, that takes a lot of the luster out of it too as well. So.
Yeah, I found it funny. There was that one guy from Texas who was talking up how he was going to break the 40 time. Which one was it? It was I think it was Isaiah Bond was claiming he was going to set the all-time 40 time. He didn't even set the best 40 time for guys from Texas in the end.
What did he get? Don't hold us in suspense. Keep us in
suspense.
He
had a 4.39. That's still fast.
He could probably beat me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, I mean, you're also, you've retired from your sprinting days.
I could still run a 4.340.
If I give him
or maybe not, but
if I give him a head start, he'll have a chance.
The decimal in Steve's 4.340 comes after the 3.
Y'all remember? Dave wasn't with us, but we interviewed Ricky Sanders, and I remember him telling us that I remember he said that he watched Darrell Green run a 4.140. Remember that? He said that. I don't know if that was on the air or off the air. It might have been off the air. He told us that, but and I said, well, could you beat him? And he said, only if you gave me a 10-yard head start, I could beat him.
Yeah. And Ricky wasn't a slow guy, man.
No, he wasn't at all. But Darrell was at another level.
Yeah. So the only name that I've seen people kind of saying that this guy kind of boosted his draft stock was the Virginia running back Tutton. He when it came to all the measurable stuff, he did well. On a personal level, I'm kind of annoyed by how many guys go to the combine and don't do anything. It seems like any of the workout stuff.
Well, they're there for the interviews.
I understand that, and I understand that's actually more important for them. But as far as the TV entertainment aspect, if only 2 quarterbacks run the 40, what's the point?
So for those of us who don't matter and it doesn't count at all except as entertainment, it's a bit of a bummer.
Right. Then stop putting it on TV if you're not going to make it entertaining.
Listen, I mean, the NFL has a decent strategy, which is we're going to have something interesting every month except June.
Right. But don't let something get less interesting then. We saw that happen to the Pro Bowl, and look what's going on with the Pro Bowl now.
Actually, I would argue they've made the Pro Bowl better now. At least they're not playing a pretend game. At least they're having some fun events and stuff.
You're just being a contrarian now.
I
know
am
your
never
game,
being a
Steve.
contrarian, Alex. What are you talking about? I'm not a contrarian.
I know your game.
I was never a super big fan of the Pro Bowl myself at all. I mean,
I'm
I
not
was
either.
younger a little bit, but
I'm not either. I'm just saying, I mean, at least they gave up the charade and are trying something different. That's all I'm saying.
Actually, what they should do is put their best 12 together for flag football against the pro women flag football team. See some of them women out there playing flag football. They're impressive.
I don't think that would be competitive. A competitive event.
It would be fun because some of them are actually hyper competitive and very very quick and very very good at the sport. I'm just saying, flag football. Why not? Give it a shot.
If we let the women tackle and they can't or something, you'd have to like give the woman
or give them like a 21-point advantage or something.
Something, yeah.
It wouldn't go well.
There was a time, and this goes way back, when the best college all-star team would play
You're
the
going
NFL.
back to like the 70s, man, or 60s.
I think I might be going back to like the 40s.
Yeah.
But they would have like the college all-stars versus the NFL all-stars.
That also would not go well in today's world.
No, probably wouldn't. What if you did the NFL's worst players versus the college NFL?
Who gets selected for that? Just put the Jets out there every year? I mean.
Yeah, no, we're just going to take the 32nd team. You have to play the college all-star team, and we'll see what happens.
I think I would still take the NFL team in a landslide.
I probably would, but I mean, colleges are putting out better and better players.
It's a professional organization now. You got to remember that. It's professional football.
Yes, college is a professional organization. They pay everybody now.
I know. I wasn't being facetious at all. It's a professional organization.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not college football
years
anymore.
under Snyder, man. I think an Alabama or Georgia team probably would have boat raced them. I mean, that's some pretty bad teams we had here, man.
I don't know. I think NFL teams would go to every length to make sure they beat the college team.
They absolutely would. They would cheat.
Yeah. They would not be the ones to lose to a bunch of college kids.
Yeah. Yeah, it would get nasty actually.
Yes.
Hey, right. at least we would be winning off the field. That's all that matters.
Shades of Vinny Serrato or no, Bruce Allen.
That's a Bruce Allen quote. Yes. All right, so Dave, since I brought up the combine, I know you did was it O-line or just offensive tackles?
Offensive tackles.
Just offensive tackles. Yes. So do you want to maybe talk about the offensive tackle rookie prospects?
Sure. I put these into tier classes. So tier 1 are guys are projected in the first round. Your top 2 tackles will be drafted in the top 15, which will be out of reach for us. Would be Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, 6'5", 315. I mean, I could go over their strengths and weaknesses on here if you want. I just think these guys are kind of out of reach.
Skip to the ones that.
The ones I think are probably close to us. Okay, well then we can go right down to from Ohio State, Josh Simmons, who's 6'5", 317. Now he's more of a mid first, but the guy could slide to the top half or the early part of the top 20 or 20, 21 like that. So I mean, it gives room for us to move up for him maybe if they decide to trade up. And he's a guy that as I wrote in here, has really good lateral movement with exceptional footwork and quick first step. He's very strong in initial engagement, so he brings a lot of really good combination of athleticism and power. So he'd be really good on pulling in the second level and so forth. Now he is coming off of a major injury from a patella tendon, so his medicals are going to be pretty important when he comes out of it. Because I don't think he was at the combine itself. I don't remember. But I know by his pro day, his medicals are going to be pretty important for that. So for out of this right there, I did say a little more on Josh Simmons. He was a guy to watch for that pick 29 because with his medicals, he could slide even further down to the back half of the first round. So he's a guy that could essentially come in, even play a right tackle if you think Coleman can hold off on left tackle. But at least now you have a guy that can be a future left tackle if he's not ready year 1. But tier 2, go ahead.
So I guess my question would be, is this guy a true left tackle, or is this someone who may be better in another position in the NFL? It seems like he's a true left tackle.
He's one of the true left tackles from what I've read in this draft. He's definitely a guy. It's just his medicals. That's just so important how he's recovering from it. And patella tendon injuries are far more difficult to return from than what you have with ACLs nowadays these days. So,
Well, and the other question about him is that one comment you wrote in here is that he can struggle with hand placement against a wide 9 alignment.
yes,
And who plays a wide 9 alignment that Washington
how the
sees a
Eagles
lot.
do. Yeah,
Right.
Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of these linemen in this draft, they tend to have some issues with hand placement. I'm with the exception of the top 2 tackles in here. There's only a few guys in this draft that have really good sound hand technique. I mean, this draft isn't super deep in tackle in terms of fundamental play with these tackles from what I've seen. So, I mean, you could coach that up. You can get them coached up. Can't think of another word for that.
I mean, the tricky part is if you're talking about the wide 9, it's not just hands. Then you're like that's a lot of footwork that you gotta, sort
And
out.
he is exceptional with his lateral movement, very quick off the first step. He mirrors the edge rushers very, very well. So I mean, I think in terms of as a left tackle, outside of the wide 9, he may have struggles with that. Outside of that, I think he fits the mold. He fits what they would need, and you can take Coleman if you don't want to move him to the inside, push him over to right tackle. I think that's an ideal situation right there.
I think ultimately they're going to have to.
Yeah.
Move Coleman somewhere.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Tier 2?
Tier 2. So here we have Armand Membu out of Missouri, 6'4", 332. He is excellent body control, maintains balance through his blocks, anchors very well, and does very, very well against bull rush. Now he does have some issues with technique, but more or less he can find himself to become a little bit over aggressive against athletic rushers. So then that kind of takes away from his balance a little bit, and he will need work on his overall dry blocking when it comes to the running game. He's an early second-round pick.
He's also kind of a wee lad, though, too.
Yeah, well, at 6'4", 332, 6'4" height-wise.
He's a little short. He's a little short. Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a guy right there. If anything, you can if he's not going to work on the outside, he'd be ideal to move inside the guard anyway, which a lot of these names coming up, quite a few of them are guys that probably best to go into the inside.
Yeah. I mean, that's become such a norm now in the NFL to take tackles and just kick them in.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is Washington needs a left tackle.
Yes, they do.
Right. Well, there aren't a lot of great ones in this draft. It's going to be positioned right there, 29. Unless Simon finds his way down there to him.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Wyatt Millham, West Virginia, 6'6", 313. His strengths are his strong first engagement off the snap and picks up delayed rushes very well. He has many scouts show that he has a very elite anchor against power rushers and brings his feet through the blockers, making for an excellent run blocker. So he's more of a run blocker than in pass protection. Because his biggest issue comes with his short arm, which creates issues against quicker edge rushers, and that will find him flat-footed at times when redirecting blockers. So he is a guy right there. You're gonna have issues with his reach. He could find himself overextending, thus he can wind up losing his footing and balance and losing leverage in the process. So he's another guy where he's got good size, 6'6". 313 is not bad. He's very, very good against power rushers. He's a good drive blocker, and yet another guy you'd probably want to ultimately move to the inside as well.
You keep saying that over and over again.
Well, that's kind of where I'm getting at with almost a lot of these names coming up, unfortunately. Now you have out of North Dakota State, Gray Zabel, 6'6", 312. He gains great leverage off first contact. He's very good with his hands on initial contact. Takes excellent angles and shows really good recovery on counter moves and pass protection, and finishes blocks very, very well. But again, his short arms will result in him struggling on maintaining initial blocks at times, and he will narrow his base, which will hurt in his pass blocking sets, unfortunately. So ultimately, he's another guy that probably end up being more productive inside at guard. And he's projected more of an early second-round pick. Now, again, this is me as an armchair GM, and I'm probably completely wrong in all this in my own assessments. So
Hey, yeah, we're just doing our best guesses here, folks.
Yeah.
that
You
is true.
think you can do better? Start your own website.
I mean, most of them have by now. Dave knows, Steve knows. There's a million fan podcasts out here.
Nobody's as good as us,
Yes.
though.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, this next name is a name that I like the most, probably outside when you get past the top three linemen in this draft. This guy, and he may actually his draft stock may push him to the back end of the first round. Is Cameron Williams out of Texas, 6'6", 317
Did you skip
pounds.
Josh Connerly?
Oregon.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I will get back to
Well,
him.
talk
Sorry,
about the guy
I
you
wanted to
like.
bring him up
I'm more
because-
interested
you're
in the
right.
guys
I
you
did
like,
miss him.
Dave.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the reason why I didn't want you to skip him is that, we publish No One from Tampa's Road to the Draft column every week, and he's getting more mock drafted to Washington more than any other offensive tackle in
Really?
round one. Yeah, he's
Really?
yes. The top picks that this week published by No One from Tampa: Matthew Golden, the receiver from Texas; Mike Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State; then Connerly. Next, 13. So and then followed by Josh Simmons. So what I was curious about for you, Dave, before you get to Cameron Williams, is why do you have him ranked where you have him? I trust your judgment. That's just a bunch of dumb mock drafts, but something's not computing.
Well, the rankings I have is I pretty much take them off with Draft Buzz when I'm on there.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of follow what their ranking was right there. And the reason why I use Draft Buzz, one, it's different from these other sites that people use, and these are former scouts that put together this site. This site's been around for like the last 5, 7, maybe actually probably closer to 7 and 8 years now, I think. So and they kind of get different perspectives and everything. So that's where I get my rankings with this right here. But as far as with Connerly, the problem, the thing I have with him is when I go to his weaknesses, he will get, from what I read on Draft Bus, he will get hesitant at times at putting himself into unbalanced position and resulting in overextending his arms. He needs to work on his hand technique, and his anchor strength still needs improvement. And you want to put him out there against elite edge rushers. I mean, to me,
Might not go well.
It might not go well, and it kind of reminds me a lot of what we see with Wiley right now at right tackle.
A pox on you for saying that.
Well, I mean, there's also a reason why I'm here doing all this and not on an NFL team. So who knows, right?
Well, it's also because you're 4'10", but
That's true too.
Steve,
4'10" and a half.
let's focus in on some of these guys you like.
Don't
You
lie.
really like Williams. Folks get also there's 20 more tackles that are on your list here. We have to be realistic on time.
That's cool.
So Williams, you like? Tell us why, and let's maybe do one more in each other tier.
Okay. Well, at Williams, he's coming in at age 21.
Okay.
And he brings a very high intellect for the game. He picks up complex defensive schemes very, very easy, and his great initial power with this, off the snap with his hands, and when he engages, I mean, he's like a hammer with his hands. Once he engages, he really drives the lineman off the ball, gets them off balance, and he maintains his blocks very, very well. and he keeps a strong front frame through his blocks and everything. Now, granted, he still needs to work on his what they call his kick technique. So when he's kicking out on the quicker edge rushers, that first step kick to the outside, he still needs development on that. But again, he's 21 years old. His hand placement can be a bit inconsistent, and he will tend to shift his leverage from his lower body up to his waist at time, which results in him getting caught up in the defensive rush, so they can get him upright and moving pretty quick off his frame. But again, he's 21 years old. This guy has the size. He's got the strength. He's got all the intangibles you want for a tackle. This is a guy I could see you bring in the first couple of years as a right tackle, and you develop him more. You work on the other techniques. Then you shift him over to left tackle, and he's your left tackle for the next 10 years. That's who I see in Cameron Williams.
All right, so some other names you have in there, Savalina, you have who, Ursary and Mubo.
Yeah, Mbao, yes.
Mbao, yeah. Those are your tier 2 guys. Who do you like in tier 3? Why don't you just give us some of the names and which one stood out to you?
Well, just real quick on Mbao, I look at him a lot like Cosme. He's a guy that can transition into, I think, a really fantastic guard. I think he's a guy you could definitely move into guard and draft him for that. I think he could wind up being an anchor in that position. So now, in projected,
I don't remember if it was him or the guy from Arizona. I watched tape of one of them. They have very odd footwork. Was that Mbao?
Mbao in terms of with his
footwork, yeah.
Footwork wise, he can. It's mostly his hand technique and his hand placement has been his biggest issue. So it might be the other one, yes. So tier 3, you got Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State, Ozzie Trepio from Boston College, and Charles Grant from William Mary. Now I combine in terms of what I like them guys with tier 4, which you have out of Oregon, Gianni Cornelius, Alabama A&M, Carson Venson, which he's one of my guys here. I'll get to. Amari Kite out of UCF, and Xavier Truss out of Florida. And the two guys I like from this list is Carson stands out as the most potential here, and primarily as a depth swing tackle. He's a guy that's played both positions. He's a guy that has good overall technique. He's very good on mirror. He's above average on mirror blocking on the edge rushers. Very good foot technique. He will overset at times in protection, resulting in loss of leverage at times, and will get caught in overextended. But I think he's a guy that you can develop to become a swing tackle. So he can be like your Cornelius Lucas. And then Xavier Amari Kite is another one to watch in the later rounds as a potential undrafted free agent. He does lack the quick first step after the first snap and tends to be a little too stiff at times. But his transition for development of guard might be his path forward. So again, another guy, as this is a tackle, I think you can develop to become a guard. So he's kind of a guy that could probably be a practice guy for the next couple of years. He could be that next Chris Paul, the guy with potential, the guy you could see that might get in there and eventually develop into something. So that's what I see with that.
We've gotten super nerdy here today, folks.
Yeah.
But this is what you all ask for.
This is what we do as nerds.
It is true.
Yeah, we are all technically nerdy. We all have nerdy-ish jobs, nerd vicinity jobs. So,
is there a vicinity?
Yeah.
Oh,
Dave does engineering. I do engineering. You do legal. I mean, it's nerdy.
People in the comment section have said, this is what they want. This kind of.
Yeah. So there's a name that this is the guy who I've hyper focused on, Alex the Weird. Like I always find those players that I get like I want this guy.
It's usually a kicker though.
Long snapper?
No, not this time. It's the offensive tackle from Rutgers, late round pick. Like he's a developmental project. Holland Pierce, 6'8". He's 340 now. He used to play at like 400 plus pounds. So giant of a tackle.
Wow.
I gotta say, I did a far nerdier thing than either one of you ever did, though, by tracking down and calling the nationwide long snapping expert 2
You did
seasons
do
ago.
that. You did do that.
Rubio was his name, in case anybody's curious.
Yes. And he told you that they should draft Cheeseman, and look what happened.
He said Cheeseman was one of the ones on his list.
Yeah.
Cheeseman was ranked like 3 or 4 or something like that on his list.
Right.
And he was right, but it didn't work, but he was right.
Right. So anyway, that's my
I'm
guy.
just saying,
I'm into.
I'm just saying I fit into the same categories as Alex, just slightly differently. That's all.
Yes, you do. You're more willing to make cold calls.
I'm the one that sat around for a month and wrote 4 columns on details of injury data.
Yeah.
That's where I come in.
But I think, look, they need obviously probably 2 defense or offensive linemen in this draft.
Yeah, they need a starting left tackle.
They do.
And
I
they
don't know
need
if you can
an
get one at
interior.
29.
Yeah, maybe not. And they need an interior lineman. And so I think let's move from this. And because Dave, we haven't published it yet, it'll be published Friday, but I think we probably need to go quickly through it concerning the time, maybe. But you did free
We have
agent.
10 minutes.
Oh, okay, we did free agent offensive tackles too, right?
Right. Well,
do you have that in
actually,
front of you, or you want me to do it? Because
actually, if you want to run through, 'cause I don't have it in front of me. But I think it was just free agent offensive lineman, not just tackle. I think it's just lineman. What it was, yeah. So
because Dave's having a technical issue right now, and so Dave wrote this column, but I am going to go through it and steal the credit for this and pretend like I wrote it.
Well, I just put names on there. There's no actual information on him yet.
Okay, so he hasn't finished the column yet. Well, very
Correct,
good.
yes.
We'll wing it
Correct.
then. Okay, so the point here is that free agency starting in about a week. We're trying to still plow through the remaining free agent groups. We combined offensive line into one because I started this thing like a week later than I should have.
Right. We needed to expedite the process.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so we'll start with offensive tackles. I'm going to read the list and we can comment on them. Available offensive tackles: Ronnie Stanley from the Ravens, Cam Robinson, Vikings, Walker Little, the Jaguars, Tyron Smith, the Jets, Dan Moore Jr., Pittsburgh Steelers, Morgan Moses, New York Jets. That guy's still playing. Jedrick Wills, Cleveland Browns, and Justin School, Tampa Bay. So I'll kick to Dave because Dave's the one that's really getting into the details of this.
Well, I think Ronnie Stanley, is a guy they should jump on and focus
certainly
on.
the biggest name out of that bunch.
Yeah, because he definitely had a somewhat of a pretty good bounce back year last year. I think he's a guy that you could definitely maybe put in for the next several years until you get your left tackle, and be ideal to move Coleman over to right tackle and put Wiley in guard where he's more natural, or put Coleman where I think he should go at left at left guard. But what do I know? So that's the guy that I would jump on right there. I'm not real big on Cam Robinson. He's been a disappointment since he's been drafted on the most part. And now granted Jacksonville is Jacksonville. They haven't been all that great out there, but last year he wasn't terrible for Jacksonville, so you did see a little bit of an uptick in his game. I'm still not sold on him being a left tackle though.
Well, the obvious other name on this list is Tyron Smith, but he's like 100, number one, and I think he's definitely long past his Hall of Fame level status that he had. There's a reason he is not with Dallas anymore, and the Jets are where NFL careers go to die, and that's where he is, and it's because he sounds like a great name, but he's 35, I think.
Yeah, he'll be 35.
Yeah,
he's up there.
So that would be a name that that people would recognize, but doesn't mean he would outperform some of these other people.
And look, I think it's not a thick group. If they went after Ronnie Stanley, or they could go after Cam Robinson. Just I could understand it's a decent upgrade probably to at least one position on the line somewhere. I don't know if you want to throw him at left or maybe move him to right, but whatever. Don't discount the fact that they need to get a guard. They need a starting caliber guard for 1 year. So it's a 1 year thing. I don't think you worried so much about age. Like, let's say, I think a lot of fans would be happy if Brandon Scherf came back at 34. Uh, you know, Washington fans love nostalgia. So like, if he came back and he was going to fill in at right guard, well, uh, you know, we're getting healthier and all that. Like, I could see that. But they need to spend some money on a good guard that they trust.
Speaking of
Actually,
guards, oh, go
actually,
ahead.
I think the answer for the long term for guard is who Philadelphia is going to let him walk is Mekhi Becton at 26 years old. I mean, he had a resurgence. He was drafted as a tackle, but he had a great year last year as a guard. And he answers, and he's a guy you could put him in there, a left guard, and you have to figure out something for
Well,
and Cosme as well.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, even if you put Mekhi Becton on the right guard and Cosme's ready, I mean, you can kick Mekhi Becton over to the left side and put Sam Cosme right where he's going. But I think if you have an interior line of Becton, Beatis, and Cosme, I think your interior's set for a long time.
so let me run down the guard list here since we're talking about guards. In rank order, Dave's rank order, Chase Smith, Kansas City Chiefs received the non-exclusive franchise tag. That
Right.
Washington could afford that, but I mean, it would be, a lot to give up.
Yes.
Will Fries with the Colts, Tevin Jenkins with the Bears, Kevin Zeitler with the Lions, James Daniels, Steelers, Mekhi Becton, Eagles, as he said, Zach Martin with the Cowboys, who's another guy who's 100 years old. Brandon Scherf, as was mentioned, Patrick McCarry with the Ravens, Aaron Banks with the 49ers. So let's just start. Zach Martin, okay, going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
He's 34, and he's had injury problems. So it'd be another massive name that may not be the best thing. So I tend to think you're probably right about Becton. That's
if he becomes available, that's a different story.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I was just looking at the guys who we know are going to be free agents for now.
Is Zach Martin toying with the idea of retiring, or did he this year? I thought there was talk about him possibly retiring.
I thought you were the one that was writing this column, so.
Well, I haven't gone into detail of it yet, so I just threw the list right there.
You have a whole another day, Dave. That's it.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'll have it ready. No doubt about that.
Will Hernandez, the dream for Will Hernandez to ever be a good player is over, right? He's on that list.
Okay, well, so let's say this. I just Googled Zach Martin retirement, and they have a picture of him crying at a retirement press conference.
Okay. That answers that.
Yeah. The Dallas Morning News, a legend's farewell. See photos from Zach Martin's Cowboys retirement press conference.
So yes.
So I don't think he's going to move to cry in front of Jerry Jones and then move to Washington.
I mean, wouldn't you cry if you had to be in front of Jerry Jones?
Jerry Jones is a rich guy. If he was going to give me money, I could play.
Okay. All right. You and him in the glory hole.
I skipped that part of it. I don't, just give me money, Jerry. That's all I'm asking.
So
I can work for a undead zombie.
They do need to get a guard, right? They honestly need one tackle and one guard to really upgrade this line this year.
And by the way, this retirement thing happened today, the day that we are recording this on March 5th. So
that helps explain why.
Yeah, that's why Dave didn't know about it. Yeah, because it happened today.
They don't need a center, right? We're good at center. Do they have?
Let me run down the list real fast, just because we have it, just in case people are thinking. Yes, they have Tyler Biadasz, but so available centers: Drew Dahlman, and if anybody knows more than two of these, I'd be surprised. Drew Dahlman, Atlanta Falcons; Ryan Kelly, the Colts; Austin Corbett with the Panthers; Brady Christensen, Panthers; Coleman Shelton, Bears; Josh Myers, Packers; Bradley Bozeman, Chargers; Connor McGovern, Saints; Robert Hainsey, Buccaneers. Dave, you must have a typo in here because we've got two Panthers centers in here. So, but be that it may, those are the available centers. Obviously, Washington is not in the market for a starting center.
No, they're not. I don't even think they're in the market for a backup center. Technically, they still have a couple on the roster.
Probably.
for
I
a
mean,
couple.
they may sign one, but not any
Yeah.
kind of anything more than just a low level person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And for those wondering, I mean, Biotis is signed through 2026, so they have another year with him. So
Right.
Right.
And he's a good player. So
yeah,
they shouldn't look to move on from him anytime soon.
no,
Yeah, I think so. We're all in agreement. Just give me the bestest, most expensive tackle and a decent guard.
that's some fine, insightful analysis there, Alex.
It's 10:30 at night. What do you want?
Blame Dave for the time. Don't blame me.
I'm not blaming anybody. I'm stating
Oh,
it's
by the way,
10:30.
my computer's ready to go. If you want me to switch over to it now.
We just hit the hour mark.
Dave's computer decided to update itself literally when he turned it on to join us, and so hence the technical issue.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, it could be quick. 1%.
2%, 3%, 4%.
Yeah, I gave you a picture
1.1%.
showing 1%, and then like 10, and then 10 minutes later, I show you another picture at 4%.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, we're
Right.
flying
This is
along
why
here,
Dave
guys.
sounds hollow, because he's on a phone doing this, which if you record stuff, that's not the greatest thing to record on.
No. It
Right.
helps to use something like Skype, Teams, Zoom, because it's got better range. But yeah, it's not great.
Anybody who cares about insights into how to record.
No, it's just what I get paid for a living. All right. So dream scenario. What's your dream scenario then, Steve?
Oh hell, I don't know. If you want to ask me, I would probably say Ronnie Stanley with at tackle,
Sure.
Mekhi Becton guard, and then keep Biotis at center. And then
Yeah.
I think you kick Brandon Coleman either to the right tackle or inside, one or the other. And of course, it wouldn't work inside if they signed Mekhi Becton, so he'd have to go to right. He'd have to go to right tackle.
Yeah.
No, I would definitely go Staley, and then Mekhi Becton, Biotish, move Wiley into right guard for now until Cosme's ready. That's more natural position anyway.
In my head, I was
And
thinking
Coleman to the
Cosme
outside.
long term would come back, but if he doesn't, then yeah, there's another opening. But Wiley, I mean, Andrew Wiley is not an answer for anything.
Not a long-term answer,
No.
no. But
Yeah.
as a stopgap while we're waiting for, what's that ACL,
Which could take him out the entire year, hypothetically.
hypothetically.
Well, yeah, on the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
he could be ready for the NFC Championship game next year, so we'll see.
Yeah. Maybe.
Optimist Dave.
I started off the show telling everyone, hey, listen, don't have too many, don't think we're going back to the NFC Championship game and being negative. At least at the end of the show, at least be a little positive.
You've been building up the entire hour.
There you go. See?
Yeah. And your computer's ready. You're ready to get to the NFC champion. Dave's Mr. Optimism right now.
There we go, man. I'm ready to roll.
Yep. All right. Let's do this podcast then, guys.
We'll do a whole
that Dave's
hour.
ready. All right. No, we're wrapping up the show here, folks. Thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you all next week.
Later.
I'll post